Well, hi, everybody. My name is Ramiro Berrelleza. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Okteto. At Okteto, we build a platform for dev environments, which is sort of what I'm talking about today, but not really. Today, I'm going to talk about AI. If you heard that thing, I think it's becoming a thing in the world, and why AI is breaking in production and how platform teams can really help bring this up a notch or two. If anybody wants to connect after the fact, this very small link, you can see or if you search for my name online, it'll pop up. There's my QR code there. I write a lot about DevX, Kubernetes, platform, dev tools, open source. I was born in Mexico. I now live in the San Francisco Bay area in Oakland, and I try to come here once a year or twice. A beautiful community. I always have a lot of fun. And by the way, thank you for welcoming me so nicely. So our profession as developers is going through a very, very significant change. I've been a professional developer, or I've been tricking people to pay me for software for about 20 years. I don't know how professional I am. But for a very long time, you know, that workflow on the right, on my right, you know, I write code, I have a pull request, I review it. That's been the standard for the industry, you know? But as AI becomes more mainstream, as models become better at what they do, and as this world of agentic development starts to become a reality, this is changing, right? We no longer write code. We were at a meeting with one of our customers this morning, and they show us this big presentation they're going to do tomorrow. And the first slide on this presentation was, developers no longer write code. Code is a commodity. Engineering is not. Provocative, but I think it's true. Over the past 3 months, you know that magical moment in November, December, where suddenly everything clicked and models became stronger. We're seeing now a lot of still frontier organizations talking about this new workflow where developers are no longer writing code. Developers are now becoming managers of agents. Developers are managing fleets of agents, not one, not two, but you see crazy people with like 5, 10 different tabs on their terminals, async agents, remote, local, the works. And slowly, the work of the developer is becoming kind of like this part here, where we're now talking not about PR, not about the code, but actually reviewing outcomes, reviewing the evidence that the agent provides to tell you, hey, I did what you asked me, and this is kind of where it works. Next, please. And agents are now taking like all these different shapes. It's not just code. No, we have agents to run code. We have agents to run security analysis, to review our code, to do perf testing, QA, to write tests for us. At some point, we all have to question what we are even doing anymore if agents are doing everything. But what's a reality is that this is speeding us up. Like, there's a lot of data. There's a lot of blog posts now. A lot of companies are publicly talking about this. Past 2 weeks, I saw blog posts by OpenAI, Ramp, Coinbase, Yotpo, Monday here. And everybody talks about this, how the multiplication of agents is actually resulting in a multiplication of PRs, but at the end of the day, also in a multiplication of performance. The question, though, for me, and kind of what I want to talk about today is, how do we manage this, and how do we make sure that the quality stays? No? When we move away from reviewing code to reviewing outcomes, how do we make sure things work? Next. Because if we just take things as they are today, we see this happening a lot. We start using prompts, the LLMs are powerful, you start to get some interesting results, but very quickly, you're going to hit a plateau where the quality only gets you so far, the code looks like it works, but it doesn't really work. And this is because we're not feeding the right context to agents. No? Agents are running locally, they're running unit tests, they have some local knowledge, they try to understand the code, but there's no runtime feedback on this workflow. The agent doesn't know what it means for an application to actually work. Next, please. And this is not new. Like, there's a reason why unit tests and integration tests and end-to-end and smoke and whatever you want to call them exists. Because modern applications are more than just code. They are code, but they're also runtime. They involve infrastructure, external services, upstream services, downstream services, Kubernetes, databases, as we heard from the previous talk, hard drives, everything. And that is the big difference, where just having an agent test your code and give you an outcome based on that is not going to be enough, because you need to get the application running. We learned this from security a few years ago when we moved away from just a static analysis of security to runtime detection and protection. And the same is going to be needed as we move into this world of agentic development. Next, please. And it's funny, as I get more and more into AI, I start to see a lot of these patterns are really the same thing we've been seeing over the years. LLMs and managing agents is a lot like managing people, right? When you're a manager, you're not telling people exactly what to do. And if you're a good manager, you should tell them what you're expecting them to accomplish. And then you give them a rubric of how do you evaluate that you accomplished what I wanted. We're seeing the same thing with agents. The same thing with these workflows, no? Like, if you've been in startups for a long time, we've always heard of like MVPs and constant innovation and constant improvement, the continuous improvement. And it's this workflow, right? You generate some idea, some code, you run it, you observe it, you make sure it works. If it doesn't, you refine it. If it does, you refine it. And this cycle never ends. And as we think of agentic development, we have to think of it from the same perspective. Agents can't just look at code and magically make it all work. They need access to things, to observability tools, to refinement tools. We're now seeing a lot of teams introducing, for example, skills to pull logs from production, to understand how code behaves, to pull information from Kubernetes. There's an MCP, a kubectl MCP, for example, that pulls information from a namespace to understand, is the pod healthy? Is the code actually the code I'm expecting? Are my health checks running? And this is the kind of observability and refinement that we need to think about as we move into this world of agentic development. Next, please. And that is the real lever. Prompts are really cool. And we spent the last 2-3 years learning what a prompt is, how to improve it, prompt caching, execution, testing, verification. But that's only going to get us to a point. A lot of the thought leaders in the space are now kind of getting to this same conclusion where validation is super important. Harness engineering, validation design, evidence-first development, TDD, for those of us who've been around for a very long time, is the same thing. Is you need to spend time not only on the prompt, but also on giving the agent a solid idea of what success looks like. What are your expectations when it comes to performance, when it comes to dependency management, when it comes to security, code quality? Stripe published a blog post where they talk about how they have skills to even tell the agents what a Ruby microservice should look like. What do they prefer? Camel case versus or lowercase. Certain types of cyclic controls. All of those things are very important to give them to the agents, because if we just go back to just the code, there's only so much you can do. And just like with an engineer, a junior engineer who joins your company and you don't tell them anything, they're not going to be successful. But if you sit with them, you mentor them, you show them how we do things here, the outcome becomes much more higher quality. And that is the same with agents. Like prompts, again, will only take us so much. Models are getting really smart at understanding what we need from prompts. What they need now is for us to spend a lot more time designing what the validation looks like. These evals are not just when training models, but also, in the case of GenAI, as code gets generated and as code gets validated. Next, please. And here's where I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, but static verification is just simply not enough. We do have to do linting, we do have to do unit testing, but it's one of my hot takes, especially for modern cloud-native applications. Unit tests are not that useful anymore. Like, there's very little value if, on an application with 1,000 microservices, if the unit tests pass, if my end-to-end scenarios don't work. I used to work at a chat company before Okteto, HipChat, and we had all these tests, and it was very funny when like, oh yeah, all the unit tests are passing. You're like, but I can't send a single message on the chat room. So what was the point of those unit tests? So as we evolve, it's very important to move away from just static to integration testing, verify your cloud configurations, your security, your credentials, permissions, scale, chaos engineering. All of this is becoming more and more important as we move away from the world of I'm writing code, I meditate on it, I write this perfect code, and then put it in production, to this world where I'm having, again, today maybe 5, and in 6 months maybe 15, 20 agents generating code, putting it somewhere, and just showing me the outcome of that. Next, please. And more important than that is the human aspect of this, because taste, and that's a word that's being overused a little bit, at least in San Francisco, but it's the idea of like, is your product good? Is the UX correct? Is it easy to use? It's something really hard for agents to determine by themselves, right? Like if you're building a product, you want your sense of aesthetic, your sense of what's good to be reflected on the product. So that's also something very important to not forget. It's not just about the correctness of the code. It's not just about does it work, does it run, does it give me the performance I expect. At the end of the day, for all of us building products, is it a good product? Will people actually spend time using this versus I don't know, scrolling on TikTok, which is the real competition for any software product. Next, please. So that's where I've been talking about this a lot, and I come from the world of ephemeral environments and dev environments, but I do believe that agents need a place to run. As we move from single kind of copilot style Gen AI code completion to full-on async agents, when they need to run somewhere. They need to be fast. They need to be able to spin up environments that are isolated, that are replicable, ephemeral, scalable, where you can like manage cost. And this sounds a lot like when we start using Kubernetes. It's really the same thing, no? But the challenge here, and I've been talking to this a lot, is as we move again to multiple agents per developer, the needs, the infra needs, the platform needs are only going to multiply. Because if you have 100 developers with 100 dev environments, that's one scale. 100 developers with 1,000 dev environments, it's a whole different scale. And if we just let the current infra deal with it, it's going to blow up. Next, please. And this is where we, platform people, and I'm part of that, or I consider myself part of that, have a huge opportunity. Because this world of agentic development is not going to become a reality if there's not a platform to support it. And this goes beyond, right now there's a lot of buzz around sandboxes for agents, but this goes beyond that. I'm talking about how do agents access secrets? How do agents access enterprise infrastructure? How do agents spin up a DB? What if your application needs, an instance of Aerospike? How do they get access to that? All of these things are not model concerns. These are not training problems. These are infrastructure issues. These are platform issues. And that is what all of us who've been building this for years, the platform engineering has been around for what, 5, 6 years? Before that it was DevOps. Before that it was IT. Before that it was just what you do. I don't know before that what it was called. But it's a problem that's still there, and it's going to be even more important. So for all of us, as we think of agentic development, it is very important to think not just about the model, not just about the local ergonomics of where is Cloud Code running, if it's local, if it's remote, but really making sure we have a platform that supports it. Because without a platform like this, without a platform that gives agents access to all of these things that we talked about, they are not going to be successful. And we, as the final owners of success, as people who are building products, as people who are supporting engineering teams, are not going to be successful. Next. And I wrote this slide a couple of weeks ago. The near future, maybe it's the present. I don't know at this point. Things are changing so fast that maybe this is the present for some of us. But I'm very sure that in less than 2 years, we're going to see this, where one developer is managing all of these agents, different roles, different copies. Every agent has an environment. Every agent has a copy of the code, of the data, of the security model, whatever. I don't think it's an if. It's more of a when. I'm seeing this very fast, where every time I go to an office and I talk to the teams, the question is no longer do you use AI, it's more like how are you using AI, what for, what not for. The question now is kind of, in a lot of these spaces, is like, are you still writing code, or are you just managing agents? Next, please. So my call to action for everybody is to start thinking about this. Like having an agent that runs code without an environment to validate, it's pure speculation. It's the same thing as if I just give you a PR without like an environment behind. It's like, is my PR correct? It's like, well, your code's pretty or not, but does it work? Does it fulfill your users' requirements? Does it fulfill your customers' requirement? That is what matters. And that's where we all, as a community, need to get together and start to figure out how to build these things. We build a lot with Kubernetes. Some of that will work. We might need to reinvent a few other things as well. But it is very important to help all of us kind of have this conversation and move from this world of speculation of like agent, code, maybe it works, let's see what happens in production, to a world where we validate, we have proper harnesses, and now it's more about like, what do we manage? Not the code that we're writing, and not will it work, but actually here is why it does work, and we should merge it as fast as possible. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. And if anybody cares about this, let's talk.